For reconnecting, and we're just going to wait for John Adeyemi to join. So before we got disconnected, this second session, we're going to be dealing with discussion around each state in particular. So I'm going to be managing the conversation with John once he's connected. Okay, John is connected now. So to start with, Mr. John, I guess a lot of questions sometimes, not just questions, people prefer to get 190 because they feel that I just want to get the permanent residency for once. I just want you to give your professional view to those students or graduates who are thinking that, should I just go for 419, 491 or 190? Because at the end, 491 leads to permanent residency. So what do you have to say with regards to this?
Well, of course, you cannot compare permanent residence with temporary visa. You cannot. But what government has done, when they introduced 491 visa, for example, the whole idea is for people to move to regional areas. The reason why they introduced 491 visa was for people to move to regional areas, and then if they settle in regional areas, they should not be disadvantaged. They should have benefits, same as permanent residents. For example, they should have access to Medicare, which the holders of 491 visas now have access to. They have access to Medicare. They also proposed then that they should have access to social benefits similar to permanent residents, but that did not pass. But I believe with time, they may change it. So for me, half of loaf is better than none. If you don't have opportunity to get PR directly, take what you have and just forget. I mean, just a matter of time, 3 years down the line, you will have your permanent resident, provided that you can earn that amount of money. But of course, I believe most people will be able to make that money, the required money. They'll be able to make that requirement at the end of 3 years, and they will be able to apply for their permanent residence. So it's better than none. But if you have opportunity to get 190 or 189, why not? It's better. But if you don't have that opportunity, go for what you have, which is 491. It will lead to PR eventually.
Okay, thank you for that. Quickly, before we leave this question, I'd like you to talk about those requirements they need to fulfill when they're on 491 before they get to the permanent residency. And also, just to clear the air for those students thinking they can get 491 and later get 190. So if you can also touch base on that. And lastly, the flexibility of 491. That is, life do not start and end in Tasmania, for example. If you get your 491 in Tasmania, what are their flexibility across Australia? Please, go ahead.
All right, so let me start from the last question. Once you have 491, you can live in any regional area of Australia. If you live in Tasmania, for example, and you are given your 491 visa today, you can decide to move to Canberra the following morning. Nobody will stop you. And you will not be disadvantaged when you want to apply for your PR. So 491 gives you flexibility to live in any regional area in Australia. There are only 3 cities considered not as regional areas. These are Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Any other place you can live there. So that's about that. Then the other aspect, once you have 491 visa, you cannot apply for 190 or 189 again. You cannot. The only visa you can apply for is partner visa. I hope you are getting that clear. If you are granted a 491 visa today, you cannot change the visa. You cannot apply for 489. You cannot apply for 190. You cannot apply for 189. The only visa you can apply for is partner visa. But sincerely, why do you need to bother yourself? Why not just meet the criteria for 189? I mean, for 191, and then you are giving your permanent residence eventually. So don't bother yourself once you have 491. Just fulfill the requirements. What are the requirements? Basically, you have to leave, your family members, you must live, work, and study in the regional areas for at least 3 years before applying for 191. 191 is yet to commence. So it will commence in the year 2022. It's yet to commence. So that's number one. Then another thing is, if you are changing if your circumstance change, you must report within 14 days. You must report within 14 days. Then others may attend interviews whenever the department feel like calling you for an interview. They may call you for an interview. Then the most important one, the critical one, is that you must be able to earn $53,900 per annum for 3 years.
Thank you very much for that. Thanks for touching base. So you've heard it clearly. The 491 is a good visa as well. It's better than none. So we're going to move to the next question. Western Australia. Let me start with Western Australia. And this is the 3 scenario I want you to take for every question we're going to be asking for this. International student currently studying in Western Australia, and people on post-study work visa considering on going to Western Australia. So, and the third scenario would just be somebody deciding if Western Australia is the best option for migration outcome. So with state nomination 190 and 491, what do they get? International students studying there, graduates thinking of going, graduates within Australia thinking of going to Western Australia, and just somebody just thinking of going to study. What do you have to say?
Okay. Western Australia is, it is good for people who studied in Western Australia right from day one, who studied and lived there. Western Australia has 2 occupational lists. They have graduate list and they have Western Australia occupation list. But that Western Australia occupation list is mainly for health practitioners, doctors, nurses, radiographers, sonographers, those specialized health occupations. There are few of them. So it's not for everybody. And of course, you must be working in your nominated field. That's for Western Australia occupation list. So, but for international graduates of Western Australia, they have, you must live and study in Western Australia for minimum 2 years. Your study may be graduate certificate, certificate 3, 4, diploma, bachelor, master's, PhD, whatever you study. Just make sure that you studied for 2 years. And not only just study, you also need to meet the work criteria. You must have job in Western Australia, job offer. In Western Australia, at least you must have job offer of 6 months, and you must have been working for 6 months before they can nominate you. That's for Western Australia. Whether 190 or 491 is the same. So you must have 6-month job offer in your nominated occupation, not just any occupation. If you're an accountant, you must have job offer as an accountant. So that makes it a bit, tricky. For example, a graduate of accounting in Western Australia, what's the likelihood that the fellow will eventually get, an accounting job? It may not be possible. Hence, that individual may be in a tight corner. So if you don't get a job in your nominated occupation, Western Australia will not sponsor you. But if you do have job offer in your nominated occupation after you have graduated and completed your BSc, then it's fine. But for international graduates who study outside Western Australia, except you can meet this criteria, except if you can get a job in your nominated occupation, and that job and your occupation is on Western Australia skill occupation list, that is only when they can nominate you. So it's like not 1 out of 100, because between you and I, you know how difficult it is for international graduates to have jobs in their nominated occupation. Not that they are not eligible for, not that they are not experienced to get a job, but because of visa restriction, it's hard to get. It's really hard to get. So that's the reason why, to me, anyone who did not study in Western Australia should not even think about going there.
Thank you very much for that. So, in summary, if you studied in Western Australia, you are eligible for their 491 if you get a job in your nominated occupation. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Good. And one other thing which I did not put as part of the criteria for your response. In Western Australia, because we're in COVID right now, does the critical skill list still applies in Western Australia?
As a matter of fact, like I said, at the moment, Western Australia is suspended. They're not even talking about nomination for now. But I can assure you that by the time they resume nomination, it will be around critical list.
Okay, thank you for that. So before we move to the next state, just to give us a bit of perspective around COVID-19 and the position of the government. The last budget that was released in October, the Treasurer stated Australian border may likely be opened towards the end of next year. But at the same time, there's a condition when there is a COVID-19 vaccine. And it is proposed that a COVID-19 vaccine might be available towards the end of next year as well. But we've been hearing different versions saying COVID-19 vaccine will be available early next year, from different angles. So, but what we are trying to say is this. There might not be anything different for next financial year if coronavirus situation still remains. Unfortunately, we might going to be having the wave every time. Look at Europe, what is happening there. So we just have to put our focus towards the required critical skill is, because in the next 2 years, this might be the reality when it comes to migration until the situation changes. So I'll take you to the next question, sir. I want to take you to Queensland. So if a student, same criteria, sir, if you can please go on about Queensland.
Okay, so Queensland is straightforward. I mean, what they said, although like at the moment, the nomination is suspended for 190. They will be resuming that in December, mid-December. But for 491, nomination is still on, but it is only for those who applied between late September and 5th of October. Those people who express interest before then, and not just anyhow people, those who met the criteria, they have their own, criteria. For 190, for Queensland, you must have 12 months work job offer, and you must have 12 months job offer, and you must have maybe studied there if you're a graduate that finished from Queensland University, any Queensland University. You must be living there and studied there, and you must have job offer of 12 months before they can nominate you for 190. But for PhD holders who studied in Queensland, they are exempted from work experience condition. They are exempted, so they are eligible for 190 nomination, provided that their occupation is on the graduate list. But like I said, at the moment it is suspended. So offshore, there's nothing for offshore candidates at the moment. Then for 491, you must have occupation. You must have full time in a closely related occupation for 3 months in regional Queensland, and employment is guaranteed for 12 months. The employment must be guaranteed for 12 months, but of course you must have worked in your related occupation for at least 3 months in regional area before they can nominate you. For example, if you move from New South Wales to Queensland, if you work, say you are an accountant and you got a job as an accountant in regional area, and that job employment is guaranteed for 12 months, and you have done 3 months there, then they will nominate you for 491 visa. There's another one, is called business. It's for people who want to establish a business in Queensland, provided that you are not on a student visa. Say, for example, you have enough money, like $100,000 to play with, because the minimum requirement is that you must be investing about $100,000 in an existing business. You buy an existing business in a regional area of Queensland, and you operate that business for 6 months, and you also employ someone. It could be an international student, it could be a citizen, it doesn't matter the nationality, the status of the individual. So long you are doing, you have an employee in that business that you bought, and you operated that business for 6 months with minimum, and the initial investment on that business is minimum of $100,000. So at the end of 6 months, and you also meet 65 points. It's point tested. You must meet 65 points. Queensland will nominate you for 491. They will nominate you for 491. But at the
Thank
moment,
you.
all these things are closed.
Thank you very much for that for Queensland. So if you're thinking of Queensland or you are in Queensland, these are what you should be considering. Before we move to the next state, which is actually Victoria. Victoria, they've been through a lot lately. There's some little understanding which I've been having with some of the universities we're working with. I'm just going to mute everyone and I will mute you later, Mr. John. Just a sec. Good. So with Victoria, I mean, the conversation I've been having, it's about the border being closed, Australian border being closed from international students coming in, and the impact of students continuing to study online when we have a COVID-free Australia. Like New South Wales COVID-free, Queensland COVID-free, most other states are COVID-free. Students go back to on-campus study completely because a lot of students are enjoying this online study right now because they have the time to work. And what I actually find out from the university was studying on campus will remain an optional option for students this time around because the border is not yet open for international students to come in. So it's good news for most students who are in New South Wales, for example, and want to study a course in regional Tasmania or regional New South Wales, because you can actually be in New South Wales and be studying it. But that is a conversation for another time, because we have some students in Victoria that the restriction did not make them go to Tasmania and all of those things. So let's talk about Tasmania now, the critical sector and the three criteria. What do you think for people who are living in Victoria right now and they want residency or they are planning on going there? So please speak and I will unmute you, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Go on, please.
All right. People who live in Victoria at the moment that want to move to Tasmania, right?
Yes.
Let me just touch base on Victoria criteria. For now, Victoria is focusing on critical sector as well. And critical sectors such as health-related occupations mainly. These are sectors they are focusing on. And you must have lived and worked for at least 6 months in your nominated occupation. That is, your nominated occupation, and your nominated occupation must be related to critical sectors occupations. So before Victoria can nominate you. Now, for someone who lives in Victoria and maybe currently studying or wants to move to Tasmania, well, Tasmania understands that, you know, that situation that some people are currently studying online and they are not in Tasmania. There's a provision. If you are stuck, if your course is, current course duration is 2 years, out of 2 years, you are expected to live in Tasmania for 1 year, regardless of the situation, whether you are studying online or not. You must be in Tasmania physically for 1 year. So you can study remotely for 1 year, then the second year must be in Tasmania. That is only when they can count your residency for you, Tasmania residency. And they will now assume that you actually live there for 2 years. And that's for people that are looking at 190. Because at the moment, if you study in Tasmania for 2 years and your course is related to an occupation on the Tasmania skill occupation list, Tasmania has its own skill occupation list. So if your occupation is on that list, you can be sure of 190. If your occupation is not on that list, so long you can write a career plan. How you'll be able to, attract a skill job at the end of your program. How your program will translate to a skill job in Tasmania, then they will still nominate you for 190. So it is not enough to just study any course in Tasmania. You must study a course. Your primary purpose is first identify a course on the list, on their list. Study a course that is related to the occupation on the list of Tasmania. That's only when you will not have issue. But if your occupation is not related to any, if your course is not related to any occupation on the list, then you have to be prepared to write a career plan. And that career plan will explain how your skill, your course will translate to a skill job in Tasmania. So you will be eligible for 190.
Yeah, thank you very much. I guess you've already started talking about Tasmania. So, but before then, in conclusion for Victoria, the critical list, is that still available, and is Victoria occupation still open for application?
At the moment, yes. The Victoria occupation, Victoria is considering people on, let me just get the update. I think I mentioned it. Okay, it's suspended at the moment.
Okay.
It's suspended. So they only consider people who submitted before 21st of September.
Okay, good. So it's suspended. So we're going to touch base. Sorry, you have a question for Victoria. Who has a question for Victoria, please?
Tasmania. I have a question for Tasmania. I was wondering if international applicants, offshore applicants, can apply that route of writing a career plan.
Offshore is out of it for now.
Offshore is out of the equation in Australia for now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about ACT before we move to New South Wales.
Sorry, I have a question for Tasmania, sir.
Okay, we'll get to Tasmania, sir. Oshodi, we'll get to Tasmania to explain it in full. But let's quickly touch base on ACT. Because a lot of people want to be in New South Wales, Queanbeyan, and also work in ACT. So all these things I would like you to explain to us. You've already explained ACT about the metric system. What's your take for people who did not study in ACT, who want to go to ACT for migration?
ACT, like you rightly mentioned, and I've mentioned earlier, they use what is called metric system. So from my experience, it's actually good for people who are married and who have lived there for a while and who have occupations on their list and the occupations are opened. The more of these points or these boxes you are able to tick, the better points you have. At least for you to get an invitation from ACT at the moment, you must be looking at from 80 to 100 points on their matrix system. And this thing is not easy to get. So it's actually good for people who are married, who have occupations on their list. And as you know, at the moment, they're actually looking at critical sectors as well.
Although, what about the ACT priority list? ACT priority list.
Priority list. They still consider other occupations who are not considered critical sectors, like they consider welfare workers. They do consider, I think recently they invited even some engineering occupations as well. But the real thing is this: if you did not study there, you must be prepared to live there for a while. And also, you must be prepared to work in your nominated occupation. That's when you will have better chance. For me,
okay,
ACT...
Mr. John, I will hold you there for 1 minute. You've said something very important now. So ACT is actually a good opportunity for students right now because they don't have the critical skill list, which limits occupation. So are we saying accountant, for example, they can go to ACT? Or if you're an accountant who studied in ACT, Do you have opportunity this period to get?
No, not this period. It's hard this period because at the moment they are actually looking at the critical sectors and maybe a bit of some other occupations which are closely related to critical sectors. So, but if they, before now, yes, I can say yes. Before now, say like around August, they will have, they will, I mean, they must, they will, if somebody met the thing by then, they will have, I believe, they will have gotten the invitation. But at the moment, generally, because it's a direct, they are following the directive from the department. The department has advised all the territories and the states only nominate people in critical sector, and nobody wants to breach that rule. So
Okay,
that's the reason why I say.
Magnus, you have a question? I saw you lifting your hand. Go on, Magnus.
Yes, I want to find out. First of all, you know, when he started talking about ACT, there were some slides he put up, you know, on the screen. I was able to take a photo of the one for 190. I would like him to put back the one for 491. Then I'll take a photo. And then my question is, if we are living in a place like Quimbia and then working in ACT, Canberra, or any of the regional areas in ACT, are we okay? Would they accept our application for a nomination for either 491 or 190?
Well, if you live in Queanbeyan, you are living in New South Wales.
Yes, I know.
So you are not fulfilling the requirements of ACT.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, ACT will not even invite you. You are not eligible because you are not living in ACT. If you are submitting an expression matrix, expressing interest on that matrix system, you have to put your data, your information, and they want to look at your address. And of course, once you are invited, you have to support your application with proofs, with your address, with your utility bills, and so on and so forth, and with your transaction evidence. So if you are living in Queanbeyan, you are not fulfilling the criteria for ACT. Okay,
thank you very much. At least you have made it clear for me. And then secondly, please, if you don't mind, could you just help me? Could you put up that the slide for 491 for ACT?
Okay, let me.
If you can put it back on. I want to take a photo of it because I got the one for 190, but I wasn't fast enough to get the one for 491. So if you can just put it up and let me just take a photo. That's all. I don't have any other question.
No problem. I'm happy to do that. Mr. Matthias, can you enable me?
Yes, share my
screen. All right. It's still disabled.
Okay, I'll just see if you can share now.
Okay, I should be able to share now. All right, you have it.
Okay. All right, 1, 2, ready. Got it. Thank you very much.
All right, no problem.
Okay, we continue. Any other question regarding ACT, please?
I have a question, but it's not on ACT, it's on Queensland.
Yes, go on, please.
My question is, I'm an international student, but is it better to study accounting or information technology related courses in Queensland for a 190 visa? Or is Tasmania better?
For accounting, Queensland is not an option. So look at Tasmania. Don't even waste your time.
Okay, what of
Queensland is not an option.
What of IT courses?
Remember, you have to meet the work condition. What if you don't get a job after your program? So why should you put yourself under probability. Why not just go to a place where all you need to do is to fulfill the study requirements, and then they will sponsor you.
Okay.
So I think it's better you really consider very well. If you're doing IT, you're going to spend more time. It's going to take you 2 years for the master's and 1 year professional year, or you get
That's
a job.
correct.
And professional year costs you money. At least we can get you something for $8,000 to $10,000, but it gives you 5 points, but it costs. While accounting, on the other hand, you have the option of just doing your 2 years accounting if you're in Tasmania, and you don't need to pay for professional year because you get your 491 or your 190 straight away once you are done. If you have your IELTS 7.0 to register as an accountant. So that is the benefit of you looking at doing accounting. So,
Okay. What if I study finance? Can I still get a job relating to a closely related occupation?
You mean in Queensland?
No, in Tasmania.
Well, the main thing is about assessment. What assessment will you get? If your finance has accounting option, you can get assessed by CPA as an accountant, then fine, because I'll let DME go on about finance manager. They probably require more requirements.
My advice would be that you should do accounting. Don't just waste your time doing something that is not directly related to an occupation on the list. You may have issue with an assessment. So do accounting, you will have positive assessment, even without having work experience. So you have positive assessment. But just make sure that the course you are doing is accredited, because that's another thing.
Yes, sir, can I ask a question, sir?
Yes,
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm currently studying in Tasmania. I previously studied in Queensland. I did masters in animal science, agriculture. So, but due to COVID-19, I moved back to Queensland, but I'm still presently studying online in Tasmania, and the list is still running over there. Is the list enough to show that, I'm living in Tasmania, or do I have to actually go back there to finish my course?
You said you are currently doing a Masters of Animal Science.
No. I had finished Masters of Animal Sciences last year at UQ. Okay. So I moved to Tasmania to do an advanced diploma in leadership and management.
Okay.
Just for the visa 491.
Can I ask you a question? What occupation do you want to assess on?
I have a positive assessment as an animal scientist, an agricultural scientist.
That shows you have previous work experience.
Yes,
overseas.
Yes, in Nigeria.
Oh,
I claimed for it. Yes, sir.
Oh, beautiful. So the question now is whether because at the moment you are not living in Tasmania, but you are actually living
somewhere in Queensland.
Whether list is enough. List is not enough. They want to see your transaction history. They want to see your statement of account, your day-to-day transactions, what you do, your groceries, what they want to see that. They want to see your utility bills as well. I know with your list, you will have utility bills compulsorily. They want to see your phone bills. They want to see all those things. So, yeah, but at the moment, they understand that COVID has changed a lot of things. So if you have lived in Tasmania for at least 1 year, you are still fine.
The course is for 1 year. I've only lived in Tasmania for like 2 months before the coronavirus started.
Now that the border is open, you have to go back. Because they mentioned on their website that as soon as the restriction is over, the students should be able to return to Tasmania. They understand that, COVID has disrupted a lot of things, but people in Australia may not have excuse going forward, because by last Friday, the restriction in New South Wales was removed. I'm not sure of Queensland and Tasmania, but I don't think there's restriction. So you should be able to go back fit the criteria.
Yeah, I think you should go back. So Ochobi, we can talk more about your case after the meeting. You can give me a call and we can look into it further. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, hello, can I ask a
I
question?
Go on,
have something
please.
to say.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Hello. Okay, yeah. So, because I just finished my master's in business information system in Sydney. If I want to go to Tasmania, can I study a 1 year? Because I currently I've applied for another student visa. But can I go to Tasmania and study a course that is for, let's say, 1 year, and still get the nomination in Tasmania? Like if I move to Tasmania now and do a course of 1 year.
All right. You should be aware that you have to do professional year for you to get your positive assessment. Are you aware of that?
Yes, yes, I'm aware of it. So what I want to do is, as soon as my student visa comes, I want to apply for my 485 immediately. Then if I can go to Tasmania to study for 1 year. While I'm studying, I will do my professional year in Tasmania.
All right. So what I can advise in that case is, instead of studying, you could also work. Do you understand? Because if you study, whether you study for 1 year or you work for 6 months in any occupation that is not less than skill level 4, if it is less than skill level 4, you have to justify, your employer has to justify that they could not get a Tasmania resident to do the job. So if you, instead of studying for 1 year, why not just work for 6 months at least for minimum 35 hours per week? Minimum 35 hours per week. Before it used to be in any occupation, but because of this COVID situation now, it has changed a lot of things. You have to work in sectors related to that is critical to Tasmania. And guess what? The disability support work is part of the sectors Tasmania has highlighted that is critical to them. So I know someone who recently got nominated. He studied accounting here in Sydney. He got his positive assessment and moved down to Tasmania to work. He worked there for 6 months. He's been working for more than 6 months. So, but as soon as he worked, he clocked 6 months in Tasmania with his 35 hours per week. He was working, he's working in disability support as a disability support worker. He was able to apply for his nomination, and they've invited him already to apply for his visa, which he had even submitted. He had lodged his visa already, so he's waiting for grant any moment from now. So he's an accountant.
The nomination, is it for 491 or for 190?
Oh yes, it's for 491, because either you study for 1 year or you work for 6 months in any occupation in Tasmania, you will get 491. But for you to get 190 in Tasmania, you must study there for minimum of 2 years. Okay. And you can't do anything less than a bachelor degree or a master's degree. You can't do you can't do graduate certificate, for example. You have to do either bachelor degree or a master's degree.
Okay, will I be, are there IT, sorry, please, one more question. Are there IT related jobs in Tasmania? So like if I go there and do my professional year, is there an opportunity for me to get IT related job to fulfill the 491 requirements?
No job for
you
IT.
Don't have to. Again, Mr. Matthias?
I mean, IT job is very hard in Tasmania. So it's community service disability job you probably will have more access to. We have students who are in Tasmania, they can't get IT jobs. So it should not be part of your plan. If it happens, it happens.
But once I get the 491, I can move to regional New South Wales.
Yes.
To fulfill the requirements.
Yes, Yes, we mentioned that. So
You
let
can
me tell you
fulfill
a
your
bit.
requirement by working in any occupation if you are on your 491. It does not have to be in your profession. Is that correct?
And you can live in any regional area.
Talking about regional areas. Sorry, I'm taking you guys back, way back. Is Canberra considered a regional area? Canberra?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'll take you guys to the next session now.
Yeah.
So
we haven't
Mr. Matai,
of Tasmania. I'm actually in Tasmania. I would like to ask about Tasmania. I had my degree, my master degree in Victoria, and I had my professional year. So I'm in Tasmania now, doing disability job for 6 months, so that I can get a 491. So my question is that, what is the requirement? What are the things that I can do to like studying in Tasmania for 2 years? Is it an automatic invitation for 190?
all right. I will answer that straight away. Once you study in Tasmania for 2 years, and you study a course that is related to the occupation on their list, you will be eligible for 190. You must study for 2 years. That course must be CRICOS registered. All right. And if you studied a course which is related to an occupation on their list, then you will not need to include a career plan. I mentioned this earlier. But if you study a course which is not related to any occupation on the list, then you have to include a career plan explaining how you have increased your ability to find a skill work in Tasmania. For example, I know accounting is not on their list. So if you studied accounting for 2 years, you have to explain how you have increased your ability to find a skill work in Tasmania. So
what I'm saying is that if you are studying, like, say for instance, you go to study agricultural sciences, which is part of their list for 2 years, is that an automatic invitation, or there's still other requirements? You have to work, you have to do assessment, and all those stuff.
Oh yes, you have to meet the Department of Immigration requirement, which is number one, you have to be under 45. You need to score 65 points, including your state nomination. You must have your English, at least competent English. You must have skill assessment in your occupation. So these are basic requirements that must be met. The requirement for nomination is different from requirement of the department. You will not get nomination if you don't meet the requirements of the department. So department's requirements are non-negotiable. You must meet them before you apply for nomination. Then regarding whether you can get an IT job or not, let me tell you the story of a Sri Lankan lady. She studied here and she got in touch with me, one way or the other. And I told her, look, your best option then is to go to Tasmania. And immediately after her study, she did MBA here. She left for Tasmania. She got an IT job. In fact, she got 2 jobs. So she eventually stayed with one, and then we got a nomination and a visa eventually. So it's possible to get an IT job. It depends on you and how favored you are. So it's possible.
The nomination, was it 190 or 491? The nomination, was it 190 or 491?
491. If you let me tell you about 190 also. There's a work stream. If you work in your nominated occupation, and the occupation is on the list of Tasmania, you will get a 190 invitation. For example, if you're a registered nurse, all right, that occupation is on the list in Tasmania.
How about early childhood teacher?
Early childhood teacher is on their list as well. If I'm not, yeah, I know it's on their list.
Okay, thank you.
Early childhood.
Okay.
Yes, it's on their list. It's on their list. So if you work as an early childhood primary teacher for 6 months, minimum of 35 hours per week, Tasmania will sponsor you straight away directly for 190.
Okay.
All right.
So I have some questions, sir. Just one question, sir.
Thank you. Sorry, before your question, please.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Sorry, before your question, I think we've been asking questions on Tasmania, so let's just take the session on Tasmania before we move on to another state. So, in this particular session on Tasmania, sorry, 1 minute, please.
Okay.
This COVID-19 era, you know, each state, they now have the critical list they have to go by. And I would like you to touch base on that as regarding Tasmania. We do know that Tasmania is going by their own existing list, but at the same time, Tasmania wants you to demonstrate of you being contributing to the economic recovery of Tasmania, or you are helping in the fight for COVID-19. So I'd like you to touch base on that. And most questions most people have been asking is, for example, health. Is social worker considered to be health worker? Is welfare officer considered to be health worker? I would like to also touch base on that. And secondly, someone with accounting assessment as an accountant in Tasmania working in disability, can we say that person is also assisting in COVID-19 situation now? So let's have a discussion, please.
Okay, let me start from the last point you raised. Someone who has accounting, who is an accountant working in disability. I just gave a live example, I mean, which is recent one, of an accountant, someone who has a positive assessment as an accountant, but works in disability in those, area sector in Tasmania, was invited to apply for his visa, was nominated for 491. I haven't met the other criteria, departmental criteria, worked for 35 hours per week in Tasmania for 6 months. He was nominated just recently, not quite long. And he had, in fact, as a matter of fact, he had applied for his visa. So his visa can be out any moment from now. So that's fine. So disability is considered as one of the critical sectors in Tasmania. I think it's only Tasmania has seen that. It's only in Tasmania has seen that. And of course, they also mention community services. So any occupation related to community service is fine. Either youth worker, disabilities officer, social worker, all these things, welfare worker, they are considered as community services. So Tasmania will nominate such person. But in New South Wales, let me not use New South Wales. Let's say broadly, federal government, what they've not been inviting those occupations at the moment. They don't consider them as one of the critical sector occupation. They don't count them as critical sectors occupations. So they only consider health, either nurses, medical practitioners, sonographers, radiographers, medical laboratory scientists. These are occupations they consider as critical to recovery of to health, to combat COVID-19. So, but Tasmania consider welfare worker, disability, and community services as critical. And also ACT does as well, because ACT invited people around, was it August or September, in welfare, and they're still inviting up to now.
Okay, thank you very much for that. At least that has provided some clarity. So back to Tasmania now. You've said a lot about Tasmania, which I believe you've addressed most issues that has to do with migration in Tasmania, and I was leaving it to be the last. So, but before we come to the last question part of which states you are going to be recommending, let's talk about New South Wales. Or do anyone have any question on Tasmania? Any question on Tasmania?
Yes, please, I do.
Okay, go on, please.
Please, my question is, if I'm currently studying, let's say in Sydney, and I can run my program online, can I go to Tasmania to live there and get a job, maybe in disability, then work for 6 months, as the consultant just said, and still be able to, qualify for the program 491?
Yeah, of course. Once you live in Tasmania for 6 months, live and work there for 6 months, in any sector, normally you will be eligible for 491. And you have your positive assessment, you'll be eligible for 491. But most importantly, if you work in sector related, I mean, considered as critical to Tasmania, then you will be prioritized. So to answer your question, if you study in Sydney, after your study, you live in Sydney, but you have to note this: you and your family members must be living in Tasmania as at the time of invitation. So you can't keep your family in Sydney and you go there alone.
No, I don't have family in Sydney. I'm just like, I'm alone in Sydney. Then I'm thinking my course is, I can run my program online. So I feel if I can go to, Tasmania, then live in Tasmania while I'm running my program online, then I can fulfill that requirement.
No, for you to meet the requirement of Tasmania, you must not be on student visa if you're not studying in Tasmania. That's another thing.
Okay.
It's either you're a student in Tasmania, do you understand, or
yes,
you work in Tasmania. And if you're working in Tasmania, you have to work for 35 hours. And your student visa will not allow you to work more than 20 hours per week. So you cannot be on student visa and meet the condition.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, question.
Hello.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yes. So I've completed a master's in professional accounting in Sydney, and I have a friend here too. We have completed together, and we were thinking of going to Tasmania, and someone told us that we can do a diploma in community service for 1 year, and then we will be eligible to apply for the 491. I don't think is that okay? Like,
yeah, it's okay. Well, for me, if why do you need to, except if you actually want to study? Do you understand? I prefer work pathway to study pathway, except if you really want to study.
No, we don't. It's we even work in disability service, but we were asking ourselves, how are the chances of job immediately we go there, because that is one disadvantage, because if we go there and we look for a job for long, it can disadvantage us because we are on a tier now.
Yes, I understand. So maybe what you can do is if you, whichever one is convenient for you is okay. I'm just talking personally that For me, I prefer work pathway. If you are able to secure a job that you don't have to study, but if you think that job may not come fast, then just go for your study option. And you'll be fine at the end.
If we compare Tasmania and Canberra, like we were thinking of the two of them, which one is much promising, Canberra or Tasmania?
Okay, I prefer Tasmania.
All right.
I prefer Tasmania because for now there are no dramas as such regarding the criteria, but for ACT has a lot of dramas.
Sorry, I just want to ask this question. Can you be on 491 and apply for 858, the Global Talent Visa?
Remember what I said, that once you get 491, you can't apply for another visa again except partner visa.
Yeah, I want to add something about what you just said now. Like if you're on 491, you can apply for any other visa. So 491 is not PR, right?
It's not PR, but it will lead to PR.
So how will it lead to PR if you're not going to apply for PR? Like how does it work? Like if you're on 491 for 3 years, then what happens? How will you get the 190 or the 191?
Okay, I mentioned it earlier on. While during the presentation, that once you have 491 visa, you have to fulfill the conditions of the PR, which is number one, you must live and work, or study in any regional area. Okay.
Okay.
Secondly, you must earn $53,900 per annum for 3 years. These are main criteria that you have to meet. If you meet those criteria, at the end of 3 years, you will be eligible to apply for PR 191, which is yet to commence. You will be eligible to apply.
Thank you. Mr. John, could you please let people in? We got some people on the queue. If you can,
Point of concern.
Yeah, allow them in. They're trying to log in again.
I'm not getting any.
You're not getting.
Is the 491 just a question? Sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Go on, please. Yeah. What's your question? Go on.
491 visa, as you say, the requirement is live, study, and work in regional areas. Does it require you to study again when you're on the 491 visa?
No. What I'm saying by study is that if you need to do any study at all, for example, maybe you or your partner wish to study, you can study outside a regional area.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Mr. John, please, if I study in Tasmania for 2 years, study accounting in Tasmania for 2 years, must I also work before I can get nominated?
No, not at all. You will get your PR straight away.
Without working?
Without working, because you have fulfilled the condition of your nomination, which is study.
Okay, thank you very much.
My question.
One more question.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, yeah. I just applied for my wife visa from Nigeria, and fortunately we got it this time around. And
you got
am also my wife's visa. I'm on 485.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm planning on moving to Tasmania. But I'm not looking if at the end of the day I'm eligible to apply for the 491, and my wife has not been able to travel down. What impact does that have on our visa?
Oh, it has no impact. It will be granted. All right, but just that
So it
your
doesn't.
wife will not be able to travel to Australia, but it will be granted once she does fulfill the condition as well. The health examination is done. The whatever, I mean, health examination,
Yeah,
police certificate
yeah,
is done. It will
my
be
wife
fine.
already has a visa now. Only that because of the COVID restrictions, she cannot travel in. So she
Yes.
already has the visa. She can travel at any time once the border are open. But me now going to Tasmania and starting the 6 months, and at the end of the day, I apply for the 491. Does it still carry her along, or will I
Yeah,
have
you
to
can
apply?
you can include that. You can include your family in the application. There's no, it has nothing to do with the location.
All right. That's what I was.
Yeah, I have a question again, please. Sorry, the last one. During the professional year, can you apply for the 491?
Oh, if you meet the criteria for nomination and you have your positive assessment, you can apply for 491 if you're invited. But I guess you are using professional year for your to get, so that you can get your assessment. So how will you apply if you don't have an assessment? Assessment has to, you need to have your assessment first.
Okay, then I have to finish my professional year before I apply for the 491.
Definitely, because you need that professional year for your assessment.
Okay. I think to also provide more clarity to you, you can also meet the requirement for invitation while doing your professional year. So if you do your professional year in Tasmania, you can also be working for 6 months to meet.
Yeah, that's why I asked
for invitation, or you can also be studying for 1 year to meet the requirements for invitation. So you can do it at the same time. Okay.
That's correct.
So before we wrap up with Tasmania right now, based on the discussion we've had, you could see that people like accountants, they have hope in going to Tasmania because they can actually work in other critical sector, disability, community, and still be relevant during this period to get their residency. So I don't want anybody to be discouraged going to Tasmania. Tasmania, it's just an open check to get your residency in this country. So we'll continue. We'll come back at the final end to give the final states that are the best states for consideration when it comes to 491 or 190. So let's touch base on New South Wales. I know New South Wales has been a very good state. A lot of people were surprised. They got their residency in New South Wales between the period of June, July, August. There were a lot of surprises in New South Wales. But recently now, a lot of people are shocked because of the stand New South Wales government is taking. So, Pastor, over to you right now. With New South Wales, what are the positions right now with this COVID-19?
Like the situation in New South Wales at the moment is just watch out for this space. So just watch this space. Nothing is happening at the moment. They've advised that the invitation, the nomination will commence shortly. So, but the shortly you cannot hold it, in the sense that the shortly can be June next year.
I'm telling you, it can even be just 2 days or 1 week.
Yes, to the end of so we can't rely on New South Wales. If you have much time left on your visa, say you still have 2 years, then you can wait. But if you have just 1 year, you don't have enough time. You just have to do something urgently.
Okay, before we move on to Northern Territory and South Australia, I would like to say something about regional New South Wales, and we go through the chat box to see some of the questions on the chat box. Hopefully we can finish this meeting in the next 15 minutes maximum. Regarding students who are studying in regional New South Wales, now we have some students doing social work in Armidale. What do you think will be their chances? They've already commenced their course, they have opportunity, or in Newcastle. Students are in Newcastle and in Wollongong studying. What advice do you have for them?
Well, so, of course, their study will last for 2 years, I believe, minimum of 2 years. So if they study in those places, they will also be entitled to 3 years post-study visas. For example, if you study in Newcastle and Wollongong, you'll be entitled to 3 years post-study visa. But if you study in Armidale, you'll be entitled to 4 years post-study visa. So you have plenty of time after your study to, to sort out yourself. And trust me, you should be able to get something. Things will not remain like this forever. In the next 1 year or 1.5 years, things will go back to normal. So as it used to be. So, but if you don't have much time, then that's when you need to maybe make move, relocate to other regional areas, other states that you will definitely get an invitation. Or if you love to stay in New South Wales at all costs, approach your employer if they are willing to sponsor you. It's another pathway, and it's very popular now these days. Employer sponsorship is popular, provided that your employer has the capacity and and also they can sponsor you, provided they can sponsor you. For employer sponsorship, they have about 22,000 slots for employer sponsor in this financial year. 22,000 slots. So it's good.
Sorry, excuse me. Can I ask a question? If someone has, let's say a student, your spouse is working full time, in disability, and spouse has worked like 2 years in disability, can the employer also sponsor?
It depends. Okay, I guess to sponsor as a disability support worker, that's what you meant.
Yeah. Yes.
That may be tricky. That may be hard, to get sponsorship in that area, because for an employer to sponsor, the employer has to justify that they could not get, a resident to do the job. So they have to justify. So which may not be easy to justify. So I don't see it. I don't think it will fly.
Okay, thank you for that. I will start with the Zoom, questions on the chat box. I'll just move on to the relevant one regarding Marvin, refreshments. Anyway, that one is refreshments. You can organize that in your house. And then send me the bill. Gideon, not every one of us can enjoy it, sir. Okay, I don't know. We'll continue. What is the best option for offshore candidates right now? I would like you to say something, sir, for 30 seconds. Any option for offshore candidates?
For offshore candidates is to come over here to study.
Okay, thank you. I am on 485 now in Sydney. What do I do now? Like, I need direct instruction because I want to move but don't know where to go. So 485 visa right now in Sydney.
It depends on the occupation. It has an assessment in. So it depends on that. But if he has a positive assessment in any occupation, where I will advise, consider Tasmania.
That's good. The next one from Eleo. Which region will be best for me to move to, as I have just finished my Masters of Business Information System program in order for me to get the 491?
I think the second, just what I mentioned now is applicable as well. Just
Thank you,
follow that.
Tasmania. The next one, how easy it is to get a job as an accountant in Queensland? Well, that one is...
You can check on sick.
Sick, thank you.
Sick.
Yes. Then next question. I have done 7 months online study for Tasmania. Will I still meet the 491 criteria for Tasmania? You have to live 1 year in Tasmania after your study.
You have to live 1 year. You have to
I
live
have
1
a
year.
sister in Victoria, and my husband has assessed his certificate. What do we have? Well, is this relating to Victoria family sponsorship? What do you have to say for them? They have a family member. We don't know which part of Victoria. Nero, would you like to clarify and ask your question correctly so we can just chip in? Do we still have Nero connected? Okay, we continue. If Nero is there, he can ask the question properly. I think Veronica, she has already asked the question if early childhood education is in Tasmania occupation list, and your answer was yes. Is that still the case?
Yes.
There is,
okay.
there is a lot of
if
noise
you
in
have
the
done a
background.
skill assessment, will it help? Well, not so sure what it will always help. A skill assessment will help. Is social work on the critical skilled list? This was the question I asked you, which if it's considered as health. From your response, it's optional. If it's in Tasmania, yes. If it's in ACT, yes. But I don't think that will be the case for New South Wales.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, good. So we'll continue. I have an eligible family member residing in a designated regional area in Australia. How easy do you think it will be for me to get ITA for 491 visa under family sponsor stream compared to the regional sponsor stream?
Yeah, at the moment, regardless of whether it's state nominated or family nominated and sponsored, your occupation must be related to the critical sector. If it is not related, you won't get an invitation, even if you have 100 points.
Thank you. Another question from Festus. Is it possible to still do a professional year while on a student visa under another program? The answer is no. To do professional year, you need to be on a graduate visa and you need to have your English. And right now, the ACS, they've introduced no requirement for professional year. You need to have 6.0 each of the band to do ACS professional year. So take notes. Do you need to be assessed? You won't get a positive assessment with AQUA as a disability support worker. Well, I don't think AQUA assess disability support worker. That should be VETASIS. And even the same occupation is not so common on the list. Pastor, what do you have?
It's not on the list at the moment.
Not on the list, good. So there's no point.
But they plan to introduce it.
Introduce it.
Maybe next year, March.
What about DAMA? In DAMA, Northern Territory Employer Sponsorship?
Yeah, that one is okay. I mean, provided that you are able, you have an employer who is willing to sponsor you.
Okay. Then good, I'll move on to the next one. I'm a student in Victoria. I just concluded my course in Bachelor of IT. What would be the best recommendation for me to do if I move to Tasmania to get PR? Well, you work for 6 months or you study for 1 year, and you also make sure you do your professional year. So that will be your option. I'm about to finish my pharmacy degree. Is there a pathway for visa 190 in Victoria or Queensland? Over to you, Pastor. This particular student, she's in Newcastle, just to let you know, so you can give a good advice.
Yeah, for pharmacy, I think for pharmacists, you probably the best option would be to get a job. Get a job in a state, for example, say a state like whether South Australia, Tasmania, because pharmacists is not on it's not being sponsored by every state. So you just, well, for the state that I know that you don't, so long you have a positive assessment and your occupation is on the skill list, they will sponsor you. State like Tasmania is fine. I would recommend that.
Can she get assessment as an industrial pharmacist?
I believe she should be able to get a hospital pharmacist, and it depends on what she studied, what the assessment she got. So first thing first is to do her internship and also get a registration, then get assessment. So there are options under pharmacist. There is industrial pharmacist, retail pharmacist, community pharmacist, hospital pharmacist. So they are in the same group. So whichever one she's able to get, I believe she should be fine. But job will be the most important thing. Either job in Northern Territory. I'm just checking for her now. Victoria. If she gets a job in Victoria, they will sponsor her for 491. Even Western Australia, although no, that one favors graduates of Western Australia. We show that place. Queensland as well, provided she's able to get a job. So yeah,
okay,
boils down on ability to get a job.
I may need to skip some questions and so that we can quickly wrap up. We've started 7 o'clock, it's already 9. Sorry, you are currently in Nigeria. I might not be able to answer that. So 485 in Sydney, civil engineer, 85 points with New South Wales nomination. Is this point sufficient? I think that is very good. A lot of engineers are not getting invitation in Sydney and they have 80 points, 85 points.
Yes, New South Wales is competitive. You need higher points to get an invitation. But at the moment, as you know, that they are not even inviting anybody. So it's just to wait and see what happens in the couple of months to come. Just wait and see. So if you have much time.
Are there chances for an enrolled nurse who has 80 points with positive assessment and has done EOI in South Australia since August?
Is she living in South Australia?
Yes, she's living and working in South Australia as enrolled nurse, I believe.
Oh, then I would say there should be there's hope for such person.
Well, what would be the best option for someone who studied community service? This particular student studied in New South Wales.
Where is the person living at the moment?
In Sydney.
In June, New South Wales invited people that study community services, that have some communities services occupation, assessed occupation. They invited them. In fact, they invited people on 70 points. I know I did for someone who had 70 points and she was invited. So I believe there is hope. There is hope once they start inviting people. But as you know that at the moment, they're not doing any invitation.
Okay, then let me answer this question. Can I study a course that is not accounting, but get an assessment from the CPA? The answer is yes, provided you complete the 9 CPA subjects. They do have some Masters of Commerce, Masters of Finance, or some IT MBIS. Provided you complete the 9 CPA subjects, you will get assessed as an accountant. The next one. What is your fate if you finish your social work program but can't meet the accreditation to be a social worker because of English score below 7 band? Well, the recommendation is you can do assessment as a welfare worker, youth worker, or community worker if you have related work experience in that field.
That's correct.
So
that's correct.
That should be your fate. I finished a postgraduate in business from Victoria. I have experience in disability. I'm wondering if relocating to Tasmania and working in disability will help me in getting 491. Yes. As a solicitor with positive assessments, what are my chances of getting 491 nomination in ACT while working in Canberra and living in Queanbeyan? I was told that Queanbeyan being a border by city between New South Wales and ACT will suffice.
No, it will not.
Okay.
You have to live in a city. And let me give you a statistics based on current invitation. Invitation as at 28th of October in ACT. They invited solicitors. They invited solicitors who had 90 points under the matrix system. So they invited accountants who had 105 points. So remember, if you're able to get enough points, you'll be invited.
Okay.
So they invited accountant.
On ACT now. Part of the metrics requirements. They said if you are living in ACT and you study at least 2 days in New South Wales, you are still eligible. But in terms of living in Queanbeyan now and working in Canberra, that does not make you eligible, right? You have to live in ACT. You can live in ACT and work in Queanbeyan and you are still eligible. Is that correct? Should it be the other way around?
But you will not be. You will be disadvantaged because you can't claim your work experience in New South Wales. They won't count it for you under the matrix system.
Okay.
For ACT to count your work experience, you must be living and working in ACT.
Thank you for that clarification. This guy keep asking this question and I will answer it. Which is better option, Diploma of Nursing or Diploma of Community Service? Diploma of Nursing is better, okay? If you have IELTS 7.0, you can get it for 1.6 months, which is easy. Community Service accredited one is for 2 years. Second thing is with a diploma in nursing and you have related work experience in community service, you may still get assessment in that field. But you cannot use community service to get assessment as an enrolled nurse. So an enrolled nurse is hot cake. So Diploma of Nursing will be good for you. Please, the next question here. After getting 491, must I work in my skilled occupation to be eligible to get PRO? The answer is no. The next one is, can I get an assessment in contract administration with law experience?
Let me, contract administration with law experience. Yes, you should.
Law consulting experience.
You should. If you have, provided you have like management experience, like management qualification like MBA, you should be fine. But another thing I want to mention about lawyers, international lawyers, international qualified lawyers, you can actually convert your degree, overseas degree, to Australia degree by taking some courses in some institutions. First of all, you need to approach the state that you want to practice, maybe New South Wales Legal Board. They assess your qualification and your experience overseas, and they will now recommend some subjects you need to take. So once we are able to complete those subjects, you will be given your positive assessment once you fulfill the practical legal aspect of the program as well. So it could take you up to 2 years, but at the end of the day, you can get assessment as a solicitor. So you will not need to waste your law experience and law degree. So that's an option for you, but it's costly anyway.
Okay, and there's a question here. Can I do an assessment after completing my MBA in Sydney, or do I need to move to Tasmania to pursue 491 with my post-study visa, or what should I do to proceed? Well, firstly, to answer your question, MBA will not give you assessments. for an occupation in Sydney. I don't know what occupation you can get with it. You can't. So secondly, I normally tell students before going to Tasmania, do you have a skill assessment positive one? Or how many years visa do you have? Why do you want to go to Tasmania? You really need to know why. So if you don't have a skill assessment, then you are going to Tasmania to study a course that can give you skill assessments. So this is what you need to put into consideration. And if that study is not available in Tasmania or is too expensive, you may as well study in any other state, then move to Tasmania on post-study work visa, provided you consider other factors such as your age and the requirements. And the next one, I am a qualified chef in New South Wales and now applying for 485 visa. What are my chances for regional in New South Wales?
It's to wait and see.
Okay.
Because at the moment, nothing is happening.
I am currently studying a year diploma of community service in Tasmania. How can I add it up to 2 years to be eligible for 190 nomination in Tasmania? I think you mentioned this earlier on. You can study 2 years in Tasmania to get 190. I want you to clarify that. Are you trying to say it's only for bachelor's and master's? Or if a student is doing 2 years diploma of nursing, for example, will they get 190 as an enrolled nurse?
Okay, study in Tasmania. Good question. Yeah. Now, for Tasmania graduate, the condition is complete a critical course and meet the Australia study requirements. Okay, and then you must live in Tasmania. So these are the conditions, but the course should not be graduate certificate.
Okay.
All right. Should not be graduate certificate. It could be maybe certificate 4, diploma, then maybe a bachelor degree.
Thank you. Answer that
master's
question.
degree.
So
yeah, sorry, I was going to answer that question, ask the question. I'm currently doing the diploma in Tasmania and I'm living here, but the diploma is 1 year. But what can I do to add it up to make it 2 years so that I can be eligible for nomination for 190?
We'll do advanced diploma of leadership and management. Okay. Since they don't have advanced diploma of community service in Tasmania.
Mr. Matthias, let me clarify this. So Tasmania has advised that if you want to use category 1, which is Tasmania graduate, your course should be related to an occupation on their list. If you open that list,
yeah, I
what
open
you will
the list.
see mostly,
there's community worker. There's community worker there, and there is disability service officer. There is youth worker. There is residential care officer. So apparently, there's community worker on their list, which is.
So do advanced diploma in community service if there's any course called related to that. Anything that is related to, I will not advise you to do leadership and management because it will not land you 190. Because it has to be related to an occupation on the list. And you've rightly mentioned community service worker is there and disability service officer is there. So if you do community worker, service, you should be fine.
The problem, they don't have advanced diploma in that field. So we need to
what can I do? What can I do to
bachelor degree? Bachelor degree. You will get an advanced
do you
credit
currently
transfer.
have an assessment? Do you currently have a positive assessment? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I've got a positive assessment with computer science and
okay,
IT.
I think that is your case is similar to what we've mentioned. Just go for your 491 because when you are not trying to make efforts to get 190, you're going to spend more time and spend more money. If you do your community service for 1 year, you are working in the field and your computer science assessment already, that is going to give you a 419 outcome. Any comments, Mr. John?
Yeah, I just wondered, instead of going on 491, I was just looking for other options I can do, like instead of just going on 419.
The other options would be for you to do 2 years Masters of Social Work, or
that's correct.
You know, that it's a lot of people are in Tasmania, they spend money to do that. So if you are looking at those 2 years, or 190 is a very expensive option in Tasmania, and you just have to do it. Most students who go there to study 2 years, they spend money to do those things. So you may need to consider changing to University of Tasmania. With your community service diploma and your social computer background, you might be eligible for Masters of Social Work. But you have to spend another 2 years to study. And you need IELTS 7.0 each of the band to get in. So let's continue now. We can talk later on this. You can call me, please, okay? Please help our brother in Nigeria with question if you can. Well, let's continue. I think we're going to be ending this meeting very soon, maybe 2 minutes. So many questions we can't take all. I'll just stop this question for now, please. We have people from South Australia. I would like you to touch base on South Australia and Northern Territory before we end.
All right, for South Australia, for those who study there, the requirement before now is that you have to get a job in your nominated occupation. The course you study must be related to your nominated occupation. If you study accounting, you must have a positive assessment as an accountant. Not engineering, and you have, positive assessment in another occupation. It has to be related. All right. And not only that, you must be working at least for 3 months in that occupation before you will be eligible for 190 or 491. There are exemptions. Exemptions for international graduates, such as if you are a high distinction candidate at bachelor degree level, they will consider you. If you have a PhD in that field, the work experience will be exempted. Then if you are a research graduate, maybe you did master's by research, you'll be exempted. So from work experience. So a lot of people are stuck in South Australia now because of the work experience part. If you study accounting and you are not able to get a job as an accountant, you are stuck. So you must be able to get work experience in your occupation before they can sponsor you. And if you want to, maybe if you studied in Sydney and you move to South Australia, you must work in your nominated occupation for 6 months but before they can sponsor you for 491. Then, if you are looking at 190, you must work in your nominated occupation for 12 months. For 12 months before they can sponsor you for 190. So it's very important for us to look at those, criteria to see whether we can meet them. To me, I don't want to take, I don't want to take chances. I will tell you straight away, go to a place that is flexible, that you know that just in case you do not get a job in your nominated occupation, at least you can still meet some other conditions, which to me, the best among all these states for now is still Tasmania. Is still Tasmania the best among these states? I have not seen anyone that I have told to go to Tasmania and have met the condition. I have not gotten their visas. They get their visas easily.
Thank you very much
once
for
they leave
that.
the position. So for Northern Territory,
yes,
yeah, it is similar to South Australia. Number one, if you don't study in those cities, in those states, you are considered someone offshore is more better than you. Let me put it that way. If you do not study in those states, someone offshore is better than you. So for Northern Territory, you need to work in your nominated occupation for at least 12 months before they can sponsor you. It used to be 6 months in regional, before they can sponsor you for 491, but they recently changed it. And it also requires job offer, also you must, for 190, you must work for 2 years. So it's a bit tricky. It's not advisable at all, except
but a lot of people, they love going to Northern Territory. They see Tasmania as a place without job. They'll say Northern Territory has the job.
I know. But if it would have been better if they studied in those cities, in those states.
If you don't study the Northern Territory and you go there on post-study work visa, you have to work for 12 months or 2 years.
No, 12 months, or 6 months or 12 months. And they recently changed it.
And the job
offer.
they
recently changed it. Yeah.
What is the COVID-19 situation for Northern Territory and SA?
At the moment, suspended. It's not even considering. SA is suspended now. They are saying by late November they will resume nomination. You can be sure that
this particular clause that has been causing confusion for Northern Territory, that if you came to Australia on a student visa, let's say you came to UNSW on a student visa and you change your school to another school and you go to Northern Territory, they said they will not allow you to do their migration.
If you study in Northern Territory for 2 years, you are fine.
Regardless if you change from Sydney to Northern Territory.
Yes, if you start your study and you finish 2 years course in Northern Territory, you'll be eligible for 190.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for those clarification. And so right now, the state which is the best state which is open for migration will be Tasmania, followed by ACT, if that is what is correct from what we've discussed today.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But ACT, you have to be careful.
Okay, ACT, you have to tread it carefully. Right now, we have so many questions on the chat, but I don't think we can go any further. Pastor, do you want to take it before 9:30? Because
yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, good. I'll ask those questions now quickly. Can I still be eligible to apply for 491 if I don't get to work for 35 hours per week? Well,
no, you have to work for 35 hours.
For Tasmania,
I think it's referring to Tasmania.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Tasmania. Let's say I don't have a job that can be working for 35 hours.
For 1 year. Study for 1 year.
I'll study for 1 year.
Yes. As a backup.
Yes.
I mean during professional year.
Sorry?
When I'm doing my professional year in Tasmania, yes, and I want to be working for 6 months.
Okay, let me explain to you now. It's best you go to Tasmania immediately you receive your graduate visa, which is 2 years visa.
Okay.
The first year is your professional year. I believe within a year you'll be able to settle in Tasmania and get a job where you can do the average of 30 or 35 hours, Pastor?
35 hours.
The average of 35 hours per week for 6 months. And if at the end of your visa for the first year, you don't have that job requirement, it's advisable your second year, you start studying immediately. Or the advice I normally give, after your 6 months in Tasmania, you don't have a job that can give you 35 hours a week, you need to start studying. The reason is this: we don't want you to exhaust your graduate visa studying 1 year. You're still going to need a visa to apply for the 491 to do the processing. So to be on the safer side, within your first 6 months of arriving Tasmania, if you don't get a 6 months, a job that can give you the 6 months, 35 hours requirement, enroll in a course so that you still have 6 month visa at the end to do the process for 491. Okay, so that will be it. So the next question, for someone currently doing a master's in public health with a UK master's in pharmacology and drug recovery, what is the pathway to PRO? Well, Pastor, what do you have to say?
Pharmacology, I think that's related to pharmacy.
Industrial pharmacist.
Yeah, so I would just advise the fellow to take a course and become a pharmacist here, or preferably switch to another course entirely.
Okay, this same question relates to pharmacy. The same students, Ellen, is it 190 or 491 she's going to get if she gets a job in Queensland?
If she gets a job in Queensland and work there for 6 months in that occupation, she will be fine. But provided that pharmacies is still on their list, because I'm not too sure if pharmacies is on their list at the moment, so we have to check that. But I'm just trying to check.
Victoria, sir. What if what's the case in Victoria? Those are the two states. So would I be able to get the 190 if I find a job in Victoria as a retail pharmacist?
Retail pharmacy, right? That's your.
Yeah, that's the internship.
Likely occupation that you'll be assessing, right? Okay, let me quickly check it for you. No, you will only get 491 in Victoria. 491.
Okay.
How about
Victoria.
Queensland?
Queensland, at the moment, we know that the Queensland listing is closed. So Queensland also is, no, you will, okay. Yes, you can get that in Queensland, but at the moment it's closed. You can get 190 in Queensland.
All right.
But at the moment it's closed. So I believe you should be able to get a job because you studied in Australia. So you are prepared for jobs. You should be able to get a job as a pharmacy, but target Queensland or Victoria.
Okay, thank you everyone for participating. And if you look at the chat box, I've just dropped the contact details for myself and John Adeyemi. Sorry for those who have their questions that have not been answered. It's preferably you probably send an email or give a call to John Adeyemi in Sydney. As you know, we've provided this information session for free. It's advisable that if you need any services, you actually come back to us as well. I have some students on this group. You want to change your school, you will not call me or you'll go to somebody else. But you keep calling me to give you free information. You can see that's why this Zoom is being disconnecting, because I could not pay. But now I've paid. So let the business come, please. We need your support. Okay, there's coronavirus. So thank you all for joining. Always spread the message. We are here to help one another. We have more than 5,000 African students in Australia. If you can connect them to us, Sam Adeyemi is one of the foremost migration agents with very strong expertise in skilled migration. I have no doubt about his decision, about his judgment. If you have any case, bring it to him. Any charges he's charging you, just know you will get value for it. Okay? And I would like to encourage you, just like you pay your tuition fee, prepare money to pay for migration advice. It does help. You won't have to repeat going to school again in Australia if you get the right advice on time. We've seen incidents where people, they repeat going to school, not that they fail, it's because they could not get permanent residency. They end up going to study again for another 2 years. So thank you all. And any final remarks from Pastor John, please?
Yeah, I just want to mention information is power, you know, and this information is not readily accessible to all. I know that. You know the right place to source information from. Don't just shop around, don't go here and there, you'll be confused. A lot of people have been confused because of missed information they got. So get the right information and use it as soon as possible. For example, if I advise you to do certain things, do it. The advice may be timely. Let me give you an instance. A student contacted me for he did consultation, and I did advise him that he should go ahead with his assessment, that he will get positive assessment as at then. This guy delayed the process. After a year, he revisited it. He approached VETASES based on the advice I gave them. He approached VETASES and he got negative assessment. Why? Because as at the time he consulted with me, he was still within 5 years of work experience. But a year after, he had passed 5 years. So there's no way he would have gotten positive assessment. So he wasted money with VETASES and he's stuck now. So advice is timely. Run with it. And most especially if you have any student overseas that want to come to Australia, please and please tell them to consult with a reliable education agent like Mr. Matthias. Such person will be guided right from day one. And if you contact me as well, I'm not an education agent, but I will prefer solutions that will lead to PR. And I will eventually refer you to Mr. Matthias for admission. And he knows that once I tell a candidate that this is the course I want you to get for this individual, he will run with it because he knows that it will lead to PR or it will lead to residency. So if you have anybody, just let them do the right thing. Let them not just come here and waste their money and their time. Do the right thing. And for you that you are here, hope is not lost. If you know that it's getting difficult to get your PR through general scheme migration, I would advise you may consider PhD. Global talent is the order of the day now. And I was really challenged when I saw the statistics that Iranians are the top, among those people that got that visas. I could see Nigerians there, about 35 Nigerians got the visas last financial year. I was impressed. And of course, out of those 35, at least 3 of my candidates or 4 of my candidates got that, my clients got that visa. I was impressed. So
about 10
I know
of them
that
should have been from us.
Yeah, so I know quite well that global talent is the order of the day, and they've tripled the number from 5,000 to 15,000 in this financial year. So if you are a PhD candidate, a student, and you're about running off your program, you're a candidate. So it's another means if you want to stay in Australia. And lastly, going back to what I said, information is power. Don't waste the information that you've gotten tonight. Thank you. And thank you all
very much. And stay tuned. You'll get more update from me. Next week, we should be having a session on global talent visa. Stay tuned and all the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.